Sagittarius, hello there, my beautiful friends. We're going to do your general tarot reading for early March 2025. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I appreciate each and every single one of you. So let's get right down to business as always and start you off with an oracle card here, just so we could dip our toes into energy and see what's happening for the lovely Saggies. Hope you're all doing fabulous and fantastic, my friends. Let's get it going here. My guide, spirit team, what do we got for Saggy gang? In early March, it is Pisces season. What energies, messages, insights can we take a little peek at? And yeah, we're just going to take a real quick look at this first card. Then we'll get into the full reading itself. And at the very end, I'll pull you a bonus card from the Shadowland Tarot, just to see what might be in the shadows or what shadow work you can lean into, which is always interesting. So let's get it going here. Let's rock and see what we got for Saggy in early March. What is the vibe? What is the energy swirling around here? For my good friends. There we go. Oop. All right. It almost flew off the desk. I got it. Wow. Okay. Same one that showed up in the Leo reading. Very intriguing. Now, don't get too nervous about this little Red Riding Hood with the big bad wolf. I always say that I don't go worst case scenario with this card. There's a few different messages and lanes that we could walk down with this. Now, it can be a little cautionary. That seems to be a big theme with fire signs this week. It's like, oh, caution. You need to use a cautious approach. But before we fully dive into that, if you're new here, I'll be speaking about the March subscriber surprise towards then, so you might want to check that out. Also, if you could kindly illuminate that like button by tapping it right on its third eye, I'd greatly appreciate it. But enough of the promo, into the reading. Let's talk more in depth about this card. So again, I'm sure most of you have heard the tale of Little Red Riding Hood, and it's kind of encapsulated right here on this card. Now, I will say in some of the more positive aspects, this card could just represent what you're focusing your energy on. For some Saggies, maybe Spirit saying like, hey, continue to focus on this. For some of you, it could be Spirit saying like, oh, maybe you need to look at some other things. Don't solely focus on this, because when I see this card, I think of tunnel vision, right? Like when you look at the image, it kind of has like a tunnel here as well. So it's like, don't get tunnel vision on one thing, broaden your horizon or your approach. There could be various things that need your attention aside from this, whatever this might be. Now, I do also say that this card could represent somebody with eyes on a situation. So whether it's something that you need to keep a close watch on, maybe someone's got you under the microscope. I guess it all really depends with what your situation is. So mileage may vary, but I'm not going to say danger, danger. You need to be very cautious about a specific person. We need to see what shows up within the rest of the reading. But this could most definitely represent what you're focusing your energy on, or just keeping an eye on something. So we're going to leave it at that for now. Let's get into tarot. And yeah, I always say that first card here doesn't make or break the reading. It's just a little footnote. So let's get you 3 tarot cards in the upright. Then we'll get into that intuitive juiciness. Shuffle it up one time here for my Saggy friends. What's happening? And while we get the deck shuffled up and ready to go, let's talk about last week's reading. It was titled A Surprising Problem. Now, I will say this, just like with the other fire signs, maybe have a cautious approach over the next couple weeks, because there could be various things, situations that pop up that you weren't expecting to. And I would never wish that on anyone. But when I get a reading like I saw last week, it's like, okay, who would have seen this coming? It was giving me that type of vibe. So we're going to hope to switch that up. We're going to see what we have for you this week. As you know, energy is very fluid, never set in stone, so only take this how it hits for you. Because we could be seeing your vibe or somebody else's, right? Let's get it going. 3 cards for my beautiful Saggy friends. What's happening? All right, yeah, the deck wants to talk. 3 cards for my good friends. Early March. What is happening? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have the 5 of Wands in position number 1. That can be good for determination, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what is all this about? This could be very aggressive, this energy right here on the front. Let's get a couple more, and we'll start piecing this together. Lots of fire. Page of Wands. It's not quite looking at that 5 of Wands, so that could be a good thing. Interesting how we had that very first message about focus and attention. Now we have all fire, which linked to that specifically. Okay, Magician. Wow. All right, so you have very intense energy around you this week, Sagittarius. I'm hoping that it's going to be for your benefit, because it could be for a good chunk of you, especially depending on what you focus on, just like we saw in the front. But let's go through. I'll give you some of the classical meanings and archetypes, then we'll get into that juicy intuitive stuff. But at first glance, I always look at the elements first, because I feel like that's important to tell us how the energy is moving. And this is your comfort zone, right? Saggy is a beautiful fire sign. I'm a fire sign myself. So when I see the 5 of Wands, the Page of Wands. That's all powerful fire energy, and that's where you're most comfortable, whether it's the realm of action or adaptability. We also have the Magician here on the back end, which rules over all elements. So it's like, I got this under control. So there could be a great energy around problem solving. But notice this, in the center, we have a card that could be you. And it's like, all right, do I focus on what I want, or do I focus on the issue? Do I focus on the positive? Do I focus on the challenge? So it's interesting how this plays, because it's like, all right, depending on where you put your focus might really show us the outcome. So let's go through piece by piece and really start to build this out, because I feel like it's going to be nuanced this week. And a big thing with fire energy, yes, it's moving, yes, it's action, but it can be very predictable, it can be very explosive. But position number one, we're starting with the Five of Wands. Now, I always say you don't need to be an expert in tarot to understand what this means. We see the five people, they're beating the tar out of each other with sticks. They're really going at it. Now, I'll give you the positives of this. It could most definitely represent determination. If you're dealing with situations, if you're dealing with problems, or just life in general, when I see the Five of Wands, it's like, it doesn't matter what you put in front of me, I'm not going to stop. This is a never say die type of attitude, where it's like, I will continue to fight. It doesn't matter what, which can be good. I mean, sometimes that could be a bad thing. So I love the determination attached to this card, but the challenge is obvious, right? It's very fiery. It's very aggressive. It could represent conflict. It could represent anger. It's just like, there's just a lot of pent up energy here. So just know, for some of you, if you're not dealing with any situations and you're laying low, this could just be pent up energy that you need to get out when I see this card. I mean, especially with the things I'm seeing here on the back end. So it's just something important to keep in mind as you move throughout the week, that you might need some sort of release of energy. Now, moving to the center, we have our lovely friend here, the Page of Wands. Now, that could represent you. It could represent another fire sign if you're connected to one. So Sag, Aries, Leo, any of the three. Now, pages can represent youth. They could represent children. They could represent new things, new adventures, new endeavors. I always say pages are the communicators, just like the knights. They're also students, so it's great for learning new things, going in new directions. It's a very adventurous energy, specifically this Page of Wands. Now, in my simplistic style, this could just tell us something that's coming towards you when we clarify it. But again, it could be a lot of chit chat. It could be a lot of talk. So we're going to see if there's any communication things that we want to look at further, especially with the Five of Wands right behind it. A challenge that comes with page energy, sometimes it could be a little shy. Sometimes it could be a little bashful. Especially with this Page of Wands, it can tire itself out. It can burn itself out. So there could be various situations where it's like, you want to pace yourself, Saggy. Don't burn yourself out, Saggy. So watch your energy levels, especially with this card and everything that's surrounding it. But it's interesting how the page, it kind of has its back to this Five of Wands. Could there be a situation or something that you're putting on the back burner? Could there be something that you're kind of ignoring? It's like, all right, well, I'm not going to give it attention. While it's doing all that, I'm not giving it any attention. That could be the case. There could be a little ignoring going on. Now, on the very back end, we have the Magician. Beautiful, powerful card. So like I said, there's an intensity in your reading this week. The Magician is the master of all elements. It could represent manifesting. I always say all human beings are creator beings, but when the Magician's here, your power to create and manifest things are heightened. This is a very magnetic card. It draws things in. It doesn't chase, it attracts. And that's one thing I love about it. It can also represent channeling energy. So just like this message we saw here in the front, where I'm like, okay, you might need to release energy in one way or another, whether it's physical activity, whether it's through creative means, whether it's through a conversation with somebody. It's like there's built up, pent up energy that needs a release. Now, one thing I will say about the Magician, one of the challenges, it could represent control. Sometimes it's good to control where your ship is headed, where your life is going. But there's always going to be things in life that are out of our hands, right? We can't control the actions of others. We can't control the reactions of others. So that's something always important to remember whenever the Magician is here. It's like, all right, well, control what you can, worry about the things you can control, and then the rest you got to just see how it goes. But I want to dive deeper on all of it though, Saggy. Let's do it. Let's jump in and clarify. Okay, let's get a good shuffle here for my Saggy friends. Let's see what's happening, please. And yes, this is where I go intuitive with the message, which means I just tell you how it feels to me. So feel free to do further research or rely on your base knowledge of tarot, because as you know, every single reading is about the reader's interpretation, and I'm just giving you mine. Let's go in on that Five of Wands. And yes, if you're a reader yourself, please feel free to play along. That's why the box is here. If you're feeling any messages you want to give to Saggy, you could drop it in the comments. I don't mind at all. Okay, Five of Wands time. What's happening? Why is it here for my good friends? Thank you. There is, I mean, there could most definitely be something where you're like turning your back to it or ignoring it. So we do have the Ten of Swords in reverse. Sometimes this card could represent endings. It could also represent things flaring back up. Like whenever I see a 10, which represent the close of a cycle, when I see it in reverse, it's like, okay, either something's coming back around, something could be returning. So when I see like the Five of Wands and the Ten of Swords in reverse, it's like, oh, here it comes again. And it doesn't feel like the nicest return. Okay, so watch out for flare-ups, but at the same time, it could be something that's closing out. That's another vibe. But the initial energy I'm getting here is like, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not letting it consume my mind. So there could be something, either you're just placing it out of your mind for the time being, or you're thinking, you know, I'll circle back on this at some point. Which, you know, sometimes that's a good thing to do, right? Like you shouldn't have to like hyper fixate on something until it gets solved. Like if you can't cross the bridge right now, then you could revisit it another time. That's kind of like what I'm picking up here on the back end. So again, about what you can control. Now, the Ten of Swords is seen as one of the more challenging cards in the whole entire deck. It does represent pain, represents endings, it represents loss. When we see it in reverse, it does represent improvement. So like underneath the Five of Wands, it's like, no, I've got here. It was a struggle. It was a fight to get here. It doesn't feel like an easy energy, if I'm being honest with you. But the main intuitive vibes I'm picking up here is either one, there might be something that you should put out of your mind or that you're ignoring. Maybe someone you're connected to is ignoring something that they shouldn't be. I guess it all depends on the situation. But I also feel something like an explosive return. Like here, oh, here comes again. Here it comes again. Let's get more information. We'll see if we have any more cards that fit the bill. And we'll see how the rest of this plays out. So let's keep moving. Let's see what the Page of Wands has. Why is that Page of Wands in the mix? Please, guides. Thank you. I don't got time for that. I'm not playing games. I'm not messing around. Saggy, you feel very no nonsense right now in your approach. That's what I'm picking up here. I mean, especially with the back turn to the page and the Seven of Swords in reverse, it's like, you know what? I'm an open book. Why can't this person be? Or if something even remotely smells or seems a little fishy, it's like, I'm not dealing with it. I mean, this is, and listen, I know and love a lot of Sagittariuses. My mother's Sagittarius. I'm very well acquainted with the ways of Saggy, and you guys are generally no-nonsense people. What you see is what you get. So when I see like this Page of Wands with the Seven of Swords in reverse, it's like, I'm not playing games. Game over. There could be a game that you're currently not feeding into anymore. Or if something comes your way and you have like the slightest sniff that something is off, it's like, no, I will not. I'm not going to put energy into it. Like if it's off. I mean, so again, I feel for a lot of Saggies, you're just going to be very straightforward about your business. You're not messing around. You're not playing games. Okay. And this could come for career, personal relationships, life in general. It's like, I don't have time for that. And that's like the big vibe I'm getting here. It's like, I don't have time for all that. Like I'm focused on this, I'm not focused on all this nonsense. So there could be a lot of things. Either you're just like not giving it attention, you're not feeding it, or you're just cutting all the games out in general, like game over type of energy. Let's keep moving. Let's see what the Magician has. Yeah, the Seven of Swords. If it was in the upright, I'd be a little concerned. But the fact that we do have challenging cards, they're in reverse, just tells me you're trying not to feed energy into it. Or this could be Spirit giving that to you as an advice. It's like, Saggy, the more energy you feed it, the worse it's going to get. The more energy you feed this, the harder it's going to be. Okay, so let's go in on the Magician. Let's see what that's about. And again, to mention, all fire and air all over the place here. So the explosive energy is in the mix. But let's see what the Magician has before we get into the recap. Quick. Nine of Swords in reverse. It's like, I refuse to stress this. I refuse to let this control me. I refuse to let this consume me. These are things that I'm picking up here. Now listen, Saggy, if you're a tarot reader, you understand 10 of Swords, 7 of Swords, 9 of Swords. These are some heavy hitters. Those are some challenging cards. They could be very problematic, but also notice that they are in reverse. And just like the energy I'm picking up here on the front, it's the same thing. I think if you are keeping an optimistic mindset, that is a beautiful thing in this time, regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of what it is you're dealing with. And even if you're connected to Saggy and you're cross-watching this, Saggies are optimistic people for the most part, right? Listen, we can't blanket statement everyone from a particular sign, but from my experience, Saggies are generally optimistic individuals, and you could easily throw them off by dragging them down with like too much negative energy. And I don't feel Saggy playing into that in this time. So if you're coming around to Saggy with some negative energy, they're just not going to be about it. They're not. Maybe they'll try to lift your spirits a little bit, but I just feel like their focus isn't there right now. The Nine of Swords in reverse is literally, I'm not stressing this anymore. Okay, so just like we saw here, it's like, okay, okay, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to feed energy into it anymore. So it's definitely that game over type of feeling once again, okay, which I don't necessarily feel is a bad thing. Let's go through and do a quick recap. And again, the explosive energies all up in the mix, so it could represent the flare-up we saw. Let's go through, and before we get into the shadow card, position number one, we have the Five of Wands with the Ten of Swords in reverse. So this could be something that comes back up again, whether a situation, a person, a behavior where it's like, oh, here it comes again. It's like an explosive return of some sort. But I've been picking up this energy since the beginning of like putting something out of your mind, out of your focus. It's like, no, I'm not paying attention to it. La la la, clogging my ears. I'm not listening. I'm not looking. For a portion of you, it could just be something you're not feeding energy into for the time being. Not saying that you're never going to. There could be various things closing out too. There could be certain endings. Moving to the center, we have the Page of Wands with the Seven of Swords. The more attention you pay to something, the more it's going to affect you. And I think a lot of you already know this, because all these challenging cards on the bottom, it's like, I don't see it. I don't hear it. Don't see it. So for a lot of you, I feel like you're in extra no BS, no nonsense type of mode and mindset, where it's like, I'm not playing games, I'm not messing around. Like, what you see is what you get, and you could be easily turned away from something if you get like the slightest sense of nonsense. That's how it feels. Moving to the back end, we have the Magician with the Nine of Swords in reverse. So a triple down of this energy. So if you are a cross watcher and you're connected to a Sagittarius, come correct, right? Like, you got to be very straightforward with them and don't be a drag in the energy. That's one thing, right? I'm not judging anybody, but I feel like if you're dragging something with your negativity, that's a complete and total turn off here, in various ways, because Sagi's not messing around. Please take a screenshot if you want to look into it further. Let's see what's in the shadows. So let's get a good shuffle here for you and get you a shadow card. And yeah, I always like to pull one at the very end just to see whether it's something within you or something you don't quite see. Shadow cards don't always have to be a challenge. They could be a good thing. So let's get you one. Oh, and if you made it to this point in the reading, please feel free to check out channel memberships. I'll put a link for it in the comments below. It's a beautiful way to support the channel, and I have much love for all my channel members. Okay, let's get this shadow card out. What do we got for Saggy? Quick. Nine of Cups. So yeah, focusing on the good things. And I know that could be very difficult if you're going through some difficult situations or if you're surrounded by negativity, but the Nine of Cups is a very, very happy card to have in the shadows. It's usually wish fulfillment, it's welcoming, it's happy, the total opposite of the stuff I was getting here along the bottom of your spread. So it's like, okay, don't focus on all this, focus on this, focus on what you're creating, focus on what you're manifesting. Keeping an optimistic mindset is pivotal in this time for a lot of Saggies when I see this card. That's just how this energy is flowing to me. Now, the Nine of Cups can have some challenges. Sometimes it can be overindulgence, right? So like, you might be eating lots of comfort food, or you might have certain habits. Listen, no judgment here. We all do. But when I see the Nine of Cups, it could be Spirit saying like, all right, just pace yourself, Sagittarius, slow it down. So there could be something where Spirit's like, don't overindulge too much in that. But aside from that, I feel like you need to have a very optimistic mindset, which might be easier said than done. But Saggy, that's what I have for you this week, my beautiful friends. Don't click away just yet, though. I'm going to give you the details of the March subscriber surprise. If you would like to book a personal reading with me and get a little glimpse into whatever situations you're dealing with, you can check out my digital calendar on my website, mastermetaphysics.com. The March schedule is up and live. But for the March subscriber surprise, giving away 3 copies of one of my most favorite decks, the Everyday Witches Tarot. So if you'd like to get your name in for this, it's 2 simple things, as always, my friends. First, you must be subscribed, and second, let me know down in the comments Where in this beautiful big world are you from? I'll go first. I'm from New Jersey, and you could just put it down in the comments and you'll be entered to win. And at the end of the month, the winners will be announced in my community tab. As always, my friends, much love, and I'll talk to you soon.